I'm going to restore the paint on this vintage Italian steel frame, and I'm going to show you how to do it too. To do this, we're going to learn from the masters, Ollie and Becs from Fatcreations, whose custom painting is absolutely legendary and one of my favourite things to follow on Instagram. With this video, I want to achieve two things. Firstly, I want to restore the paint on this beautiful Columbus steel Bottecchia frame that I bought for just £190. I mean, the paint is nearly 40 years old, it's flaking off, it's scratched and faded. And secondly, I want to teach you how you can do this yourselves at home with the help of Ollie and Becs. Ollie, good to see you.
Ollie, how you doing, mate? Good to see
great,
you.
thanks. Great to be here, finally.
Good.
Right, here's the frame.
There it is.
On the fort.
That's not bad, considering its age, is it?
Yeah, it's nearly as old as me.
Yeah, it's not as old as me.
So what I'm trying to achieve is to restore the paint on this bike and ideally make it better than it was when it was new.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm not looking to get anything incredibly fancy, you know, glitter, fades, gold leaf, you know, just something fairly simple that then is classic and what someone could achieve at home. So
yeah, sure.
Where do we start?
Basically, we'll get it degreased and then we'll put it in the blast cabinet and I'll show you how to blast. There's two good reasons for doing that. One, gets the paint off really easily. It leaves you with a surface that's really good for the paint to adhere to. So you can see here, for example, part of the reason this paint has lifted off is it's almost a shiny surface that's been painted on. We would probably, in an ideal world, blast this with a fine media, 100% fine media. But what we're going to be using is walnut shells with 10% media in it. But it should give us a surface that's perfect for the paint to adhere to. So you won't have this problem in 10 years' time. You know, this won't happen. So yeah, that's the first stage. Basically, we'll give it a degrease. We'll chuck it in the blast cabinet. I'll show you for 10 seconds how to do it, and then you can spend an hour and a half getting all the paint off. I think you'll enjoy it, to be honest.
Before sandblasting, though, it's important to make a record of the position and details of any logos on the frame, as the process will remove them.
So basically, we measured the logo. We'll do this with all the logos. We write the measurement beside the logo, take a picture of that, and then we'll always sit the frame up like this so that we can see where the logo is relative to the bottle bosses. And we'll take a picture. And then when we reapply this logo in stencil form, we'll make sure that it's in the same place.
Now, most people don't have sandblasters, but they are fairly common, and you can typically pay someone around £30 or $30 to $40 to blast a bike frame for you. Just make sure that they use a fine media and don't use shot or sandblast, which will leave a rougher surface and can damage steel and aluminium. I did a thing. This is the frame that's been sandblasted down, so the surface is nice and keyed, and it's ready for the next step, which is masking up the bits where we don't want paint to go, and then we're going to prime it. So we're going to do that over here. The reason why I'm picking it up with tissues is because I don't want to get greasy fingerprints on it. Right. Masking the frame is pretty easy and is required so that you don't paint areas such as the threads and dropouts. Simply use masking tape about 10mm inside of the head tube and the bottom bracket, and then cut off the excess with a scalpel. We're in the paint booth now, and the first step is to put on a primer coat, and we're using a black primer. Now, if you're doing this at home and you don't have an aerosol gun, then you can actually just use rattle cans such as this, which are pretty cost effective. And Ollie is adamant that you can get really good effects from using these. And he recommends, his top tips are that you spray outdoors where you can, and also just make sure you thoroughly prep the surface before you use them and make sure that they're at a good temperature. You don't want to be spraying cold with these cans. But we're going to be using an aerosol gun because, well, for two very good reasons. One, we have one here.
clearly, and 2, because we can then use a 2-part primer with this catalyst. So it is a ratio of 2 paint to 1 of the catalyst. And what that means is that it will dry for us quicker and create a more hard-wearing finish. And it's that drying quicker is the most important thing for us because, well, it's like Blue Peter, you know, it's the magic of TV. We need to be able to do it quickly.
When it comes to painting, regardless of whether you use a gun or cans, Ali has the following tips for success for beginners. Practice first on a flat surface or some paper. Do steady strokes across the tube you want to paint, back and forth, and don't hold the nozzle too close to what you want to paint. Don't stop at the end of a tube or section you want to paint, always go past it and then stop. As you can see here, if we stop on the edges of the bike, you get more paint on the ends and this creates runs and drips. Going past the end each time gives you a nice even coat where you want it. Also, make sure you have something to hold the frame from the head tube so you don't have to touch it. Oh, and it should go without saying, but wear a mask.
So the reason why we're putting the white primer on is because if you put the red on top of that, it will be brighter than if you did the red over black primer. If you did red over black primer, you'd have to do a lot more coats of red in order to make it not be too dark. So people might be wondering, why didn't you just use white primer from the off? Why did you put black on? Well, Ali reckons that the white primer doesn't adhere as well to the actual metal surface, and the black primer is better for that, so that's why. Now, at this stage, with this first coat of white primer on, there's a few little imperfections in the paint where little bits of particulate, little bits of dust are just on the surface, and when you rub your finger over it, you can feel them. I can sort of try and show some on camera now, but at this stage, the best thing to do with that, according to Ali, is to just take them back with a bit of wet and dry before you then apply the final coat of primer.
In total, we applied 2 coats of black primer, followed by 2 coats of white primer, followed by a small amount of yellow on the seat tube for our yellow 989 stencil. Speaking of which, the postman had just arrived.
Postman's bin, and I'm really excited about this. So I ordered these to come and arrive at Fatcreations, and I wasn't sure if they were going to arrive on time, but they have done. These are decals, or decals, for the bike. Now, I managed to find these online from a website that seemed to specialise in complete decal sets for very specific bikes. And there's loads of different bikes you can get them for on there, but this is a full decal set for the Bottecchia 898, which is amazing. So these are the down tube stickers, and even, check this out, we've got, that's that really nice head tube sticker that goes on. So we're going to get that on there and then put clear coat lacquer over the top, so it'll be much better than it ever was before. The thing is about these is they're not expensive either, so I managed to get these for £23, which I think, to restore the bike and make it even better than it was before, is a bargain. So when you apply graphics to a bike, there's broadly speaking 2 ways to do it. You can either apply decals or decals to the frame, and then you can clear coat over the top of them, which is much easier, or the kind of artisanal sort of master of your craft way to do it is what the guys here do at Fatcreations, which is to actually stencil and paint things on. So we're going to do both on this, just to show the 2 different techniques. So as I showed you, the decals have arrived in the post, but the 989 logo is going to go on here. That's going to be a stencil, and also the Bottecchia signature is going to be a nice stencil there that Becs is going to do, which I can't wait to see. It's going to look absolutely amazing, and it's going to be a massive, massive improvement on the rather cheap-looking Bottecchia sticker signature that we had before.
The decals I ordered would be applied onto the final red coat. However, if you're going to stencil, then the stencils go on before, which is what I'm going to do now. The idea being that where the stencil is, the red top coat won't be. And with the stencils on, it was time for red.
with the primer dry, I can now put some red on. Now, as I've said, I'm restoring this bike, so I'm just putting on a pretty sort of standard red as it was before to get it back to its former glory. If you wanted to paint something and make it look a bit more extravagant, then again, even at home, you can do that with some pretty cool chromatic paints and special effects paints that you can get in cans. So you could go for a candy red type effect if you really wanted to, which does look really, really cool. So the overall top tip that Ali gives when it comes to painting anything, whether you're putting primer on all the colours, is to just do thin coats and be patient with it, rather than just trying to slam on loads of paint in one go and then it drips. So that's what I'm going to do now. Got to get my mask on first though. Now this is a bit I'm really excited about. Having painted the frame red, Becs is now going to remove the stencils to reveal what should be some white and yellow logos underneath. Now, I'm not going to do this because I don't have the steadiest hand, and Becs is the master. And at this point, it's very tricky. You have to be very careful with the knife. You don't want to gouge the paint. I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay.
With the red paint on and the stencils removed, I then applied the decals I'd bought. Now for most people doing this at home, decals or water slide transfers are going to be the easiest option.
Oh, it's looking boss. With the painting done and the stickers applied, the last step of the process is to apply a clear coat lacquer to the paint. Now, this is done for a number of reasons. It locks in the paint, it provides a protective coating over the top that you can clean and you can polish. And in the case of our vinyl stickers, it's gonna lock them underneath it as well. So they're protected and they're not gonna peel off. It also brings the paint alive and gives it some nice gloss shine, which is really cool. And if you're gonna clear coat yourself at home, you can buy it in cans such as this, and Ali recommends that you use a 2K clear coat because it's a much harder surface and it's more resistant to chemicals and stuff if you clean it. Now, the one thing he does say is that this stuff's pretty nasty in terms of the chemicals that are inside it. So if you are going to use it at home, make sure you ideally wear a good respirator type thing on your face, and also ideally do it in a well-ventilated outside area. You can already just see the shine and the way it's brought the paint to life. A lot of those older paints that we used back in the day didn't have clear coat finishes applied over the top of them. So this is actually an improvement on what it was, and I can't wait to see the finished result. Right, it's the next morning, and Ali put 6 coats of clear coat on the frame last night, and we've been leaving that to cure overnight. So I can't wait to go in and see what it looks like. Overall, we reckon that we've spent about 13 hours on the bike just making it look like this, and it's a relatively simple paint job compared to what they normally do. It's just like, poof, the mind boggles. I can't wait to see it though. Hey,
Ollie, good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too. Oh my goodness. It looks amazing.
It's
Thanks
brilliant,
so
isn't it?
much.
No, it's a pleasure. It's worth all the effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just such a simple paint job. It is just red, isn't it? But compared to a lot of the complicated things that you normally do. But
yeah.
it's just, I feel like it is better than what it ever was. I love all the details on it, and I think when you've done it yourself, or you've seen it done and you've done it as well, it's like
you know what goes into it.
You have a lot more appreciation
definitely.
for it. But also, made in Italy, made better by Fatcreations.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think you had a big part in it, didn't you? So, You know, it's just nice to bring something back to life. You know, it's not what we always do. You know, most of the things we do, as you can see, are, you know, making modern bikes look unique, you know, special for the customer. But when you bring something old back to life, especially when the frame was in such a good condition, you know, after we blasted it, you could see how well it had been looked after. Considering its age, it had no corrosion on it. You know, a few little imperfections, but no, it was brilliant.
Nice. Well, I'm going to take this away now.
Yep.
And then the next thing I'm going to do is build it up with some components,
Awesome.
right? So if you want to see that, then make sure you subscribe to to the channel so you don't miss it, because I've managed to find some pretty special components to go on this bike that are period correct, and I think it's going to surprise people, and I think they're going to really, really like it when they see it. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'll send you a picture.
you told me what you're putting on it, so I'm excited to see it too.
Secret for now, though. Right, I'm going to go now. Love you. Bye. And thanks to Ali and Becs. Blooming amazing.
It's a pleasure to have you finally.
Oh, thanks.